Welcome back to the channel. I am really glad you're here because look what I have to play with today. It's a land plane. I've never tried a land plane before. So now we can try it together.
Welcome to my cluttered garage. You know I'm really glad you're here. Yeah!
There's a good amount of confusion between a box blade versus a land plane, and there are a lot of YouTube videos out there of people making the comparison. Now I have a box blade and I have a land plane too, but it's not mine. My neighbor let me borrow it. It's the Everything Attachments land plane. I think this one is 60 inches wide, 55 inches wide. Whatever it is, it's bigger than 48. I know that. And it's smaller than 72. So it's somewhere in there. At any rate, it looks like it's a good size for my B2601. But anyway, I always wanted to try out a land plane because I didn't quite understand why you would need that if you have a box blade. And the more I look at the design of this thing, I see that there are several differences between a land plane and a box blade. And I understand they have two, I don't want to say totally different purposes because they're kind of similar. You know, the box blade scrapes dirt and moves dirt around. The land plane scrapes dirt and moves dirt around. But they're just different enough that one is better than the other for certain applications. So let's take a closer look at the land plane and then take a closer look at the box blade. One of the first things that you notice with the land plane compared to the box blade are these two sets of scraper blades. In fact, this one has a front-facing scraper and a rear-facing scraper. I believe that's an option. I don't know that they all come with that. But the fact that there are two of these blades is something that stands out. The other thing is these scraper blades are on an angle, probably like a 10 or 15 degree angle, whereas the box blade is on a straight, is it a straight angle? A straight line. So that stands out to me. How many times have I said stand out? I don't know, but I think I've said it a few times. But anyway, that's the first thing I noticed. Two blades and they're angled. It might have been difficult to see what I was talking about when I talked about the angled blades, but if you look here, you can see the left side of this blade is about 6 inches from the back of the land plane, whereas the right side is about a foot from the back of the land plane. So these blades are angled this way, and there's two of them. See the one up front there and this one. So that shows you how they're angled, and that's one of the differences. One thing that's very similar between the land plane and the scraper box, or grater box, or box blade, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it a grater box, some people call it a box blade, some people call it a scraper box. Anyway, the thing is, what I'm talking about is these teeth that you can adjust and break up the ground before they hit the scraper blades. They're called, I think it's scarifiers. Scarifiers. I don't like that word because I can't say it too well, but they both have those. The other thing I notice is that it's on a sled. This is about 2 inches wide, maybe 2.5, and it's made to glide across the top of the ground. So that prevents it from really sinking in and digging in. Now here's my Land Pride box blade, and you can see the sides here are thin and they're made to dig into the ground or to not hinder the box blade from digging into the ground. So whereas the land blade has these nice skids, the box blade is thinner and made to dig probably deeper and move more material. And the blade on the box blade is very similar to the one on the land plane. Looks like it's practically the same material. It's on the same maybe bevel, but it's not on an angle. Notice it's just straight with the back of the box blade. There is one on the back side too, so you can scrape forward or backward. That's similar, but the fact that it's just parallel with the back of the blade is different than the land plane. I think one of the primary differences between the box blade and the land plane that I understand is that the box blade is capable of moving more material and maybe further distances. You can drop that box blade and start to scrape, and the box blade will fill up with a lot of material and you can move it along from one place to another. Whereas the land plane fills up, but it also distributes it pretty evenly as you go. So I think the land plane is more for finish work. I guess the idea of a land plane is just like if you think about planing a piece of wood. You know, you're taking just a shaving of wood off and you're shaping that wood little by little. And I think a land plane has the same principle. I tried it on a little piece of clay area that was pretty wavy. And what I found just after a couple passes is that I saw shiny spots where the blade had scraped off the top layer, and it took that dirt and it filled it into a lower layer, and it really leveled it out quite nicely. So I'm going to try it now on my driveway, which is a little bit longer and can give a little better idea of what it does. Now last fall, I had a load of stone delivered, about 10 ton of stone, and I distributed it with my front end loader. I still have thicker stone at the top of the driveway and thinner stone at the back of the driveway because I didn't really spread it out well enough. So I'm hoping that the land plane will pick up some of that loose stone and bring it down and fill in some of these areas that don't have as much stone. Okay, here are a couple takeaways from my first 2 or 3 passes. The first thing I noticed, that thing is heavy, especially when it fills up with stone or dirt. Now I've got a bit of an incline at the top of my driveway, and I just started to spin when I got up there, so I had to put it in 4-wheel drive. So first thing is use 4-wheel drive, especially for a smaller tractor like the B2601. Then there were a couple other things that my neighbor told me when he let me borrow this land plane. First thing he said is, you're gonna think it's not doing anything the first time you use it, or on that first pass. And that's true. I dropped the land plane and it seemed like it was just riding on top of the driveway. But then I noticed that as it found high spots, it would shave those high spots off, capture that stone, and then kind of drop it in the low spots as I went along. And as you do that, it starts to break up the ground more and more and even it out. The other thing he told me is that speed is your friend. So full throttle, medium on this tractor, and it seems to work pretty well. I'm going to hit it quite a few more times and see how it turns out. I kept hearing that voice in my head saying, if you're going to do it right. So I fought the laziness. I went in and got the keys. I moved all the cars off the driveway so that way I can just clean up the entire surface and do it right. Well, I have to say, for my first experience using a land plane, I'm pretty happy with that. I know that, like anything, if I did it more often, I'd get better at it. But my first experience was a good one, and I can see why people like them. Based on my experience with the box blade versus the land plane, I do say that for driveway maintenance, a land plane is better. I can do it with my box blade. I use my box blade and I'm very happy with the results, but I did this probably 10 times, just going back and forth. I was raising the land plane very gently when I reached the end of the driveway to try and level out whatever little bit was caught inside the box. And you want to plan ahead, because if you just get to the end and you raise it up, you're going to dump a pile of stone or dirt, whatever you're grading. But if you think, 20, 30 feet ahead of time, and you start to raise it up ever so gently as you're moving, it'll start to just empty out whatever's inside that box, and it works really well. I took a walk, actually took a ride up and down the driveway, and I can say that I don't think the driveway has ever been this smooth. And once the cars go up and down a few times and kind of get those rocks settled into place, it'll be even smoother yet. But no bumps or humps. It was just very smooth coming down the driveway, so I'm really happy with that. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode. I want to thank you for joining me. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Click subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet, and if you click that little bell and make it turn gray, you'll be notified when I put out videos in the future. Meanwhile, I'll see you maybe on Monday night for the live streams. If not, I'll see you next time.